What up, hustlers?
No, that's okay. I love it. It's funny that you're talking about fairy tales and kids stories and whatnot. I actually took a stab at writing and illustrating children's books several
Really?
months ago, just as like a fun little thing. So I ended up writing like 10 children's books in like a month just to see
That's
to see
cool.
if I could do
Yeah.
it, just to get my creative energies going. But you can't really compare like the three pigs. That's just, yeah, it takes it to a whole other level there. Yeah.
Well, I was scrolling through beforehand just to see if it was suitable, and yeah, at the end I didn't realize that. Yeah, I knew, but I forgot that. Yeah, the wolf dies in the end. I said, "Oh, that's pretty dark, like for a kid's story."
Yes, it is. And they've had a
Hey,
lot of
Sally. Yeah.
they've had a lot
Yeah, it
of
was pretty
parodies
dark.
of
Like
it too.
going through, I guess as an adult, like sex sells, but as you're a kid, death sells. So I was like, all right then. And then I went back and I realized how many children's stories actually have death in them. I was like, damn,
Yes.
like dark times.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Oh, that's great. But yeah, what was your children's stories about? That's really cool.
Actually, I had a couple that were based on giraffes. My girlfriend's really obsessed with giraffes, so I did a really fun little story about two giraffes in the wilderness. So I've actually
Yeah,
never seen a giraffe before. Like I've never seen a real live
really.
giraffe. So that
Okay.
would be something for me to check out. I actually have a local zoo. So I'm in Vancouver, BC, for anyone that's tuning in, and we have a local zoo. It's the Vancouver Zoo. I don't
Yeah.
recall them having a giraffe at the time. I was pretty young when I
Son
was
of a
there.
bitch.
Yeah. But
Yeah, you got to
I'll
see them.
have
I mean, they're
a,
pretty docile. They don't do a lot. Unless, have you been on YouTube? Watch them fighting. It's crazy. They hit their necks against each other and bends around.
oh wow. Now
It's it's pretty full on.
you're based in Australia, so are there giraffes actually in Australia, or is this more of an African thing
It's
that
in the zoos they are, but that's it. So we've got them. Like
yeah.
Adelaide Zoo is one of the worst zoos I've ever been to ever, and it's so
Oh yeah.
expensive just because no one wants to go there. So to be able to
Yeah.
keep afloat, they have to charge like exorbitant prices. And the giraffe enclosure, you go in, and it's basically just cement, and then there's two trees, and then the giraffes will just eat these basically regenerated sticks that the keepers will put in the tree for them to be able to eat. But then, so like Melbourne Zoo, they've got the zebras and the giraffes in the same enclosure, so they run around, which is really cool. Singapore Zoo, they unfortunately were only just building it when I had a look, but there's this massive bridge you walk over, and it's like a safari type exhibit where you look down quite deep below, and yeah, there's zebras and giraffes and all sorts. So yeah, it's pretty cool to see. So I definitely recommend
Uh,
maybe even just having a look at your Vancouver Zoo, see if they do have giraffes, because yeah, they are docile. But if you've never seen one, then new experiences and all that jazz.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, it's
Awesome.
cool. Yeah. So what, they were all in like a series of giraffes, or was it more just yeah, did a few and then different ones?
There's there's two giraffes, which is kind of like a children's relationship story, and then
Okay.
the next one was like two giraffes in space, and then
I love it.
and
Did
then
they
I
have
had some other
spaceships and it was just
random.
like one elongated bit for their heads?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I'll have to send you a link to it. It's quite an
Yeah, I'd love
interesting
that. That'd be
story.
great.
Yeah, and then I
That'd be
did
really
some really
cool.
abstract ones about like stairs and using stairs as like a metaphor for pathways and growing up and whatnot. So I had a lot of fun with it. It was
Yeah,
different.
nice.
I always like the creative design aspect. When I was going
Yeah.
through school, I just loved getting into like Photoshop and Illustrator. So I was always playing around with that. It was actually funny. I tried to restrict myself with this. So I ended up creating all the books through Google Drawings, believe it or not,
Oh, okay.
which is like a really it's a really limited program in terms of the drawing, but it forces you to be very creative with the tools you have and the shapes that are at
Okay.
your
Think outside
disposal.
the
So
box.
it was a really good test.
That's
Actually,
really
I
cool.
was listening to a conference by Marissa Mayer, who is the former CEO of Yahoo, and she's like creativity loves constraints. So if you're always kind of putting these boundaries on yourself, it does force you to actually think outside the box, which is kind of counterintuitive, but it's really fascinating what she said there. So I always kind of like the structure. It helps
Yeah.
helps with that.
Yeah. Says the woman that drops multi-millions on a Christmas party.
Yes, I don't know about her. Some of her decisions were quite questionable, but
Yeah, I mean, I
yeah,
know you gotta look after your staff and all that, but I mean, you know, if you're running a business and you're having that extravagant of a party, it's pretty crazy.
yeah,
Amanda says,
yeah.
giraffes are badass in a fight. Yes, they are. Yeah, if you haven't seen it, after this, I definitely recommend you Googling giraffes fighting in the wild.
Nice. I'm gonna have to do that. It's actually another fascinating thing about giraffes, and then I'll drop the story. There are these I guess acacia trees in the in kind of the African wilderness, and they're like live trees, and they seem to understand when giraffes are looking to eat the trees. So they actually like move back and forth, and they also have these spikes that like shoot out to like prevent the
Yeah,
giraffes from eating them. So apparently it's like a big epidemic in Africa. Is that like the trees are like learning how to like avoid giraffes. So I don't know what's
that's
going
excellent.
on with that, but it's like it's really interesting just to see all that. That's a place I really want to check out is Africa, and maybe doing like one of the safari tours. That would be fun.
That is so good. Yeah, I'm actually gonna. The first thing I'm doing after this is Googling that. That's really cool. Trees that
Yeah.
fight you.
Yeah, it's actually a thing, and it was shocking to me. It's some sort of a defense mechanism, and I didn't think trees or any types of plants had this kind of defense mechanism. But yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah, some are pretty full on. You used to, I think you still get them, but in like Bunnings and Mitre 10, which is like our hardware stores, in the plant section, you get the very tiny little Venus flytraps.
Oh yeah,
Having wanted like a proper like Amazon one would be awesome. Like they have heads like this, but you can get like little ones, and they're about these tiny little bulbs, and they're too small. If a fly or an ant goes on them, they actually don't close. So, but they're really cool to have. Friends used to always put their fingers in them; they would shut, and then because they didn't get any nutrients in them, they'd die. Like, stop killing my plants. But yeah,
wow.
just the spikes they have to just close over as not really, I guess in this case, it's not really a defense mechanism, but it's more of a, yeah, just, you know, some dangerous shit that's going on. Yeah, some bites can be really interesting.
Wow. No, that's fascinating. Well, another comment came up.
Oh yeah,
Giraffe
all
talk.
this giraffe talk. Zebras are where it's at, much better colors. The
You're gonna
hashtag
have to
doesn't
do.
matter if you're black or white.
Yeah, you're gonna have to do some hashtags on the giraffes and the zebras.
That's so good.
See what wins.
Oh shit! But yeah, so for everyone that's just tuning in, Trevor Carss, yeah, so he's a good friend of mine. We've yeah got in touch before. He was actually the first person to interview me in his group, Entrepreneur Passion. So he's actually inspired the podcast in regards to this format. So thank you to him. So he's an ex-corporate marketer turned into a freelancing marketing, marketer. So I'm really looking forward to the value he's got here to offer today. So if you've got any questions about marketing or email lists, building groups, because we started our group around the same time, and he's done fantastically as well. So get those live questions ready. So yeah, Trevor, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure, and I'm loving your show. Like just the quality you're putting out there in terms of the dialogue that you're having with everyone is just fantastic. It's so
Thanks, Trevor.
exciting to see. I think anyone just getting started, like they should be doing what you're doing with podcasting and whatnot. It's fascinating, and hopefully
Yeah, well,
everyone checks
thanks.
it out on iTunes as well. I'm obsessed with podcasts, so
Yeah,
it's great to see
nice.
that there's more of that. So kudos to what you're doing, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's my pleasure. And that's the thing with podcasts these days. It's just because everyone's getting so much busier, and we really want to leverage our time better. So the fantastic
Yeah.
thing about podcasts in an audio sense is that you can listen to them whilst you're, say, traveling somewhere. Say if you're driving or if you're on public transportation, you can put them on
Hmm.
and listen. So essentially, you're multitasking. Whereas, say, like with a video, it's still great to watch.
Yeah.
But in some instances, you can't really multitask in doing that. Like I'm a big fan of the Joe Rogan podcast. Like there's very few podcasts I've ever listened to. I'm a big fan of his.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's really few piece of content on podcasts I've ever really taken in myself. So I'm purely just winging this. So I had no idea if this was going to be something that people enjoy or not enjoy. I've kind of just done it, and then fingers crossed.
Yeah, I could go
Yeah.
on for hours about Joe Rogan and just the type of podcast. Like for anyone that is getting started, they should really check out Joe Rogan's podcast. Just
Absolutely.
for like the audio engineering, and then even what he's done. Like he's put it up on YouTube. I think he's got over 2 million subscribers. He's definitely somebody that I check out for. And you're like listening to the conversations, and it's 3 hours of material that you would have never thought you'd be listening to before. Like just anything and everything.
Yeah,
He's got
absolutely.
here's like one I was listening to recently, and it was about how Egypt was built, like back in history, and like who was creating it, and they're looking at just the rivers and the floods and whatnot, and trying to figure out like what came first, and it's like really
Yeah.
fascinating. And it's just a huge conversation about that, and I'm like, this is the most random thing, and you're thinking it's a comedy, it's like a comedy podcast, but he has just a ton of different guests, and it's fantastic. Definitely something to check out.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, he's a stand-up comic. Aside from where he started doing the UFC commentary, that's really his main passion is comedy. So he'll do a lot of stand-up shows. So yeah, absolutely is a comedy podcast. And sometimes he will go on very arbitrary topics that are very strange, but they're still so enjoyable to listen to. And sometimes like the quality of guests, it really varies as well. It's just absolutely fantastic. So yeah, I'm a big fan of that. And that's really one of the very few podcasts I've actually ever invested my time in. Purely I've come across it and I loved it. So if you've got any podcasts that you recommend, then I'm definitely open to it. But that's kind of how it's come about.
Definitely. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's almost like my guilty pleasure, because I'm looking at the clock, like, and I try to listen to it. I mean, if anyone's gonna do podcasts and like listen to the material out there, it's good to download it and then like listen to it in your car or on your commute while you're traveling, because that really just helps with passing the time. So that's definitely the way to do it, rather than sitting at home and maybe like realizing, oh wow, like there's 3 hours that just went by as you're listening to the conversation. It's actually good as like background noise too, because if you have it playing in the background while you're working, that helps too. But definitely.
Absolutely. I've got an email list that I partnered up with someone for, and basically just been filtering through, and it's a very big list. I'll do a bit of a post in a few days about it, because about 20,000. So I just had the Joe Rogan podcast on in the background, and I was just listening to that while I'm going through this, and I was like, oh, 3 hours have passed. What do you know?
Nice. Yeah, that happens.
Yeah, but no, it's great. So everyone listening at home, thank you so much for investing your time with us here today. Trevor Carss is a corporate marketer that's now turned freelance marketer. He's an absolute whiz with email lists, growing a group as well as bringing entrepreneurs together. So Trevor, we'd love to hear how did you all get started? Like what's your story? Like, did you get into corporate marketing because, as you were saying, back in school, like you really enjoyed the design and the creativity part of things? Was it because marketing has that creativity flair to it, or did you kind of fall into it? What happened there?
Yeah, I was kind of self-teaching myself Adobe Creative Suite during university, and I liked the creative aspect of it. And then I actually landed a job with a logistics company and did a lot of creative marketing for them. So I was doing brochures, different ad copy, and that's where I was really able to kind of fine-tune my skills, and I was working under the executive team, and it was just fantastic experience for me. And then I decided, to really take the creativity to the next level. I wanted to kind of get out of that and then try to do more marketing freelance work. So actually, that employer is still one of my clients, and I do work for them. So it's funny how that works out. I didn't burn any bridges or anything like that, which is important, especially if you're getting into freelancing. Sometimes those old connections are the ones to go with, but
Definitely.
they've really helped me out. So I've been doing a lot of creative marketing. Building emails is actually interesting to me because the creativity is a good way to improve your click-through rates and to actually get people to engage. So kind of putting that creative spin in your emails is actually really important. And it's just fascinating to look at the science between art and business and trying to put that together into emails. I've been building a lot of websites for people, which kind of helps with the creative aspect as well. I'm not so
cool.
much on the technical end. I'm more on the kind of like the design end. I enjoy the design aspect and making things look pretty and whatnot. So that's what that's really what I've been doing. But the list building has been fascinating to me as well. I feel like I'm very process driven. So I like seeing, here's a goal, I had this goal to reach like 1,000 people in my entrepreneur group, and I managed to get there in about 45 days. It was kind of like
you did fantastically. You did very well.
60-day goal. Yeah, thank you. And I mean, you're doing fantastic as well. And it's great to see that it's very much possible to kind of build these groups and get people engaged and talking. And I think building a community is so valuable. So it's a fun little experiment to see what I can kind of hack together, what kind of things I can grow. And then, it becomes so natural as well, because then people just give their emails naturally. Like they're interested in growing their following. So they're like, hey, yeah, I'll give you my email. And capturing an email it can be a science. So it's definitely fascinating to see, what can be done. I think providing helpful content that people love, I mean, that's going to improve opt-ins. I mean, I've talked to a lot of my clients, and I'm looking at their opt-in offers. What kind of toolkits, packages, systems can they give away for free in exchange for an email? Something that's of such incredible value that every visitor that comes to their site is looking at that thinking, yeah, I really should be giving my email. And then that kind of helps with conversions. And there's actually this thing right now about pop-ups. And again, you look at the design of pop-ups, and I'm kind of like hit and miss with pop-ups showing up on websites, but they say pop-ups are like one of the #1 ways to really get that email and increase conversions. And just having a pop-up on your website to capture an email is just fascinating, and how much extra you can get in terms of emails. So I mean, I would recommend anyone looking to build their email list to kind of test out pop-ups and see if it works for their business. Sometimes it can be a turnoff, but I think there's like a quote. It's kind of like Justin Bieber with pop-ups. We don't like the fact that he's there. He's kind of annoying, but he seems to work really well, and he seems to be generating a lot of of a following. So that's kind of what I look at with pop-ups. You almost have to look at it like Justin Bieber. Annoying, but
I love that analogy.
successful.
Amanda said Google and Facebook are both cracking down on the conditions for pop-ups, because they can be quite ugly, but they are so effective. They really are.
Yes.
And it's funny you mentioned Justin Bieber, because his newer stuff, I'm actually I'm warming up to it quite a bit. In my personal branding, my Facebook page, the Ross McFarlane Entrepreneur page, I've done a cover video, and then I've actually used his song, the I'm Number One song. I've put that as the music.
Nice.
Yeah.
You gotta do that. You know what? I think with YouTube, the top two things are Justin Bieber and kittens. People love watching Justin Bieber and baby kittens. So if you use any of that material somehow, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, that was fantastic. I love that analogy. Yeah. But yeah, that's the thing. Pop-ups are actually really effective for websites and funnels and things like that. Like, building in the web design space, getting those integrated are just optimal, because then they're really going to help to leverage your user base, because you're going to capture something from them. So that way you can get in contact with them later on. Because if someone goes on your website and they're only there for, 20 seconds and they're bored and they leave, then they're never coming back. And it's much harder to get someone to a website than it is to get them back to a website. So, if you have pop-ups and you capture their email, you can send them an email, and it's much easier for them to then, come back and revisit. And the more likely someone revisits your website, the more often then they're going to continue to do that. So
Yeah.
pop-ups are, I think that's a fantastic point, Trevor, that, yeah, pop-ups are
Yeah.
definitely the way to go for, building email lists.
Yeah, and I mean, to add to that, it's important to do it in a very unobtrusive way, because
Yeah,
if it's there
yeah,
and if it
definitely.
comes off as spammy and whatnot, then it's going to have an effect. And I've come across ones that just look downright scary, and it just scares people away. And I mean,
Yeah,
if you're adding value to it, and there's so many different apps as well that integrate really well for pop-ups. I think there's Hello Bar, and I know AppSumo has kind of
absolutely,
these
that's a good one.
specialized pop-in. They have proper pop-ups that really work well and aren't too obtrusive, but it's important to have it optimized. Actually, a good plug, like a free plugin that I recommend if anyone's creating like WordPress sites, there's one called Hustle Pop-up, and that one's really nice. It's a really slick, easy design. And if anyone's just getting started trying to figure out, okay, how can I add a nice, easy to use pop-up, then that would be something to check out, because it takes away a
Fantastic.
lot of the frustrations. But yeah, it's called Hustle Pop-ups, and you can find it on through WordPress and whatnot. But it gives you all the different options. It can slide in, or you can kind of adjust it so that it's not too in your face, and then you can have it disappear and whatnot. But yeah, it's kind of playing around with those. I was actually reaching out to a lot of lawyers last week and looking at their
Yep.
websites and trying to optimize their emails, and a lot of professional services companies are still kind of behind in terms of optimizing their website for
Yeah,
email
they really
capture.
are.
Like
Yeah,
it's
it's such
just
an old website.
yeah, I mean, some of the lawyers, I'm thinking, like, there's a huge opportunity to get people on their email list, to send out an automation campaign, several emails over the span of a few months, and get people converting. Otherwise, a lot of their work is through word of mouth, which can be quite challenging. So it would be important to look at their websites and say, hey, here's what I can kind of add to it. And if people don't want to do a full-on web redesign, like maybe it's a really old, ancient website, then certainly like a pop-up could be a really quick fix, just to make sure that it's converting, especially if there's any kind of traffic they're generating. Then it's worthwhile to check out for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I find ones that have, or businesses that have not only just the call to action in regards to emails, but I find one that works really well for websites that I build is putting on the mobile at the very bottom. It's just a big, or, I'd say a big bar, but maybe like a centimeter at the very base of just a big green bar with a phone, saying call now or whatever. And then as you scroll down, that just stays at the bottom. So the whole time you're scrolling, there's a green phone there that follows you. And
Yeah.
that really does help to increase the call rates to then get that potential customer to call through. So that's another one I find works really well. And that isn't intrusive because it is only about a centimeter at the base of the website on your phone,
Yeah.
but that will follow you the whole way down and up.
That's brilliant, especially if you're looking for phone conversions.
Yeah.
That's awesome to do that. There's when I was in corporate, I was integrating software called callrail.com, and it's like
Yep.
phone tracking software, and it's really good if people want to figure out what campaigns are converting. Now it's more kind of like on the enterprise level, because it can get pretty costly as you're adding on phone numbers. You kind of pay per phone number, but
Yep.
it's a really fascinating software, because then you can really track everything. But I think Google Analytics can really track all the phone numbers as well. So
Yeah.
there's several
Google Analytics is
options.
awesome.
Yeah. So I mean, that would be the way to set up the conversions. But I'm interested in your thoughts in terms of, I'm seeing a lot in terms of like chatbots and like just like the chat functionality and people adding chat bars to their website. And when I was kind of working on it, like, this was like a couple of years ago, and it was kind of obtrusive to the website. Have you seen any kind of chatbots that are working really well? And like, what are your thoughts on that? I'm really fascinated in
Yeah,
what
it's
you've been doing.
absolutely. And it's definitely growing. Like in comparison to a few years ago, chatbots were almost non-existent, whereas now they're still in their infancy, but the technology has just skyrocketed. Like they're actually really effective now. used correctly. So through Messenger on Facebook, they are absolutely crushing it for sales. And because it's all automated, then it really helps to basically just get it going just straight away. So chatbots for your business page are phenomenal. And I'm, I guess a bit of a hypocrite because I haven't implemented that yet. But from the feedback I've received from people that are using them, they're absolutely fantastic. And now they're starting to become quite a shift through, because on websites, just say you have like live chat and things like that, that's really helpful to get basically, a bit of back and forth and that sort of thing. Because if you have live chat on your website, that's going to increase your sales and your conversions and all that significantly. Like it's I think live chat, I think it's like 12 or 15 bucks a month from memory. And it is actually a great service to have on your website. But now, with chatbots, that's kind of not necessarily taking over, but that can be leveraged instead for the same outcome. So, opposed to having to pay a VA or having a staff member to do live chat, then, depending on your industry as well, because, if it's a service-based industry, if you think you're talking to someone and then it pops up saying, great, someone will be in touch with you soon, it's very annoying that you're like, oh. So I always ask, hey, are you real or is this a chatbot? And then usually the chatbot will come up initially, and then straight away underneath someone will be like, oh, hey, yeah, I'm here too. What do you need?
The functionality is definitely the struggle. I love what Facebook Messenger, like what Facebook's doing with Messenger and the ability to create the chat functionality. I think there's a lot of add-ons as well that people can just kind of plug into it. And it's just incredible to see. And I think probably, in the next 5 to 10 years with AI and chatbots, I think it's going to get more popular. I'm fascinated to see what happens in that space for marketers. But that's almost another, it's like another piece. But I like the phone button idea, because I think a lot of people are looking at that, and that's always good if it's unobtrusive. There's a lot of different ways to optimize a website, and I think figuring out what your end goals are, that's really critical. Figuring out what you want. Do you want the phone call? Do you want the email? And optimizing it for that.
Yeah. Exactly. And there's all little tweaks you can do. Like, I'm not sure about in the States, but here in Australia, because just say, for instance, you're a carpenter, for example, and you've got your basic website, and then people go on there and, they've optimized it more so for call inquiries more than anything else. They're not going to worry about email lists. Some do, obviously the ones that are, very successful do, but some are absolutely crushing it without any of the extra technology implemented in the world, which is fantastic. But just as an example, for those that purely just want call conversions, having that implemented on their website is fantastic. But a further step that I normally suggest to take is, opposed to having your mobile number, it doesn't lose that credibility. But if you have a 1300 number, it looks so much more professional, because it looks as if you're a company itself. So there are, as I said, I'm not sure about in the States, but here in Australia, there's companies that you can subscribe with, and you get your own 1300 number, and all it does is reroutes that number to your mobile. So then on the website, it'll say, oh, call us on 1300, whatever. And it looks so much more like you're an established company. Okay, Amanda says 1-800 in the US. Yeah, cool. Yeah. Okay, great. So that in itself just increases your social proof, because it looks as if you're a fully established company. And I mean, with costs of that, I think, don't quote me on this because it varies, but, it can be, say, $10 a month. And then sometimes it can be like 15 cents per call. So it can get quite expensive. So if you're just starting out, a mobile number might be best. But if you are established and you can afford it, then converting it to the 1-800 number or 1300 number will look that much better. So then when they do hit that little green button at the bottom of their website, it'll then say calling 1300 or 1-800, whatever. And they're like, oh, cool. This is a full company that we're dealing with. And it just builds that level of trust that much more in such a short time frame.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's good insights. I think that's important to recognize that. And I mean, the 1-800, I guess, for protection as well. Like, some people might not want to have their cell phone number out publicly. And the 1-800
exactly, that's another good one.
Protects. Yeah, I think that's another piece to consider as well in terms of security, or if people don't want to get any spam type calls directly to their cell, or if they want to kind of change it down the road.
Yep, exactly. And the functionality you can put in regards to, say, at nighttime, it turns off and it goes to a voicemail. So you call the 1-800 number and it will say, oh, hey, thanks for calling. Jeff's fixing. We're currently closed at the moment, but we'll get back to you tomorrow. So things like that. There's a lot of flexibility in regards to what you can do with it for such a simple feature.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah,
Very cool.
definitely. Yeah. So Trevor, I'd love to know about what was it like working in the corporate marketing world, because I was in corporate, but more so in regards to the in pharmaceuticals, medical. But I'd love to know what it was like in corporate marketing, and then in comparison to freelance marketing, because I think for those that may have not had a corporate job before, that might be a really interesting insight to offer.
Yeah, definitely. And, it's almost kind of like the mindset going into it and saying, okay, do you want this to be kind of a learning experience, or are you thinking, is this temporary? Is this just to get the experience and then move on and do something bigger? So I was always looking at it, hey, this is a great stepping stone for me. So I kind of soaked it all in, and I had nothing but a positive mindset about working in a team culture. I think one of the advantages to corporate is you do have that face-to-face interaction every day, which is good. What I see with a lot of entrepreneurs, and this can happen, and it's almost like it's to no fault of our own, but we do get caught up in the work and we forget to have those face-to-face interactions. I think it's important to continue to have your network and your friendships offline as well. And that just helps make entrepreneurship a little easier, or have like a community like yours or mine, and interact and have that connection with people, because it does get isolated. But this is how a few people said, oh, Amanda says, I like computers better than people. Yeah, I mean, you know what? It's actually
Amanda, I'm hurt.
that's actually a great point, because for introverts, like I myself, I'm kind of an introvert, and for me socially, it's a lot easier to connect with people online. So it's been working out quite well, where I can join a Facebook community and interact with others and have that conversation. So is that the camaraderie is really good to have that. And that's what you get with corporate, and kind of you get it from the offline piece. And I think got a few comments again, which is awesome. It's great to see these flow of comments. But yeah, I mean,
I love the live. I actually appreciate everyone that watches this live. Like Amanda, I'm a massive fan. I appreciate you so much. Drew as well. Thanks as well. Getting these live questions daily, and we're literally getting them daily now, which is massive. Like that's for a group that's 2.5 months old, and for a podcast that's only 3.5 weeks old. I think everyone collectively we're doing exceptionally to really help grow this and grow the community. So I really appreciate everyone. And Drew says, people are my bread and butter. I love that computers let me connect with them so easily. Yeah, the way technology is now, like I love being around people, but computers are just great. Like because Trevor, when you were first growing your group, because for everyone at home, Trevor and I started making our group around about the same time. So it was fun to almost like compete without actually competing, because it doesn't make any difference. It's just a bit of fun. And he put out a blog, and it was about what he was doing to grow his group. Similarly, where I did that an hour 15 or whatever training the other day in regards to how I grew this group and how we collectively as a community grew this group. And one of the points Trevor made was that he was speaking to 30, 40, 50 people a day. I thought, wow, well, I got to start doing that. So I'm every day now I speak to at least 20 to 30 new people, and it does take a lot of time. But when you're growing your networks and it's helping your business on the back end, then it's really something that you can do through the internet. Whereas face to face, the only real way you're going to be able to do that is say, that collective amount of people is either go to trade shows every day or cold call. But cold calling doesn't build that relationship anywhere near as much. It's a 2 to 3 step process. So the internet with a simple message is going to leverage your time much better to be able to reach out to a whole new group of people in such a shorter period of time.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I mean, when I was in corporate, it was a lot of that offline, and we were at trade shows. That was a big piece of our business. And just the amount of effort required was the biggest challenge. And what I've noticed about community building and getting into the online space and seeing the growth there is that
Yeah.
you know, you can hustle and achieve more results in less time, and you just simply can't do that because there's only one of you in the real world, and you know, it's
Yeah,
very difficult to
absolutely.
get your face out there. But by doing this online, you can repurpose your content. You can get out front and center to a massive global audience, which you just simply can't do in the offline world. So I like the freedom of being able to kind of look at that and experiment and see what works in the online world. And online marketing is just fascinating because selling online is just fun. It's a challenge, and I like the competitiveness of it. Even though we're
Yeah.
almost kind of competing with ourselves, it's
Yeah.
always good to see. It's awesome to see others, and it's almost it's very encouraging as well. I think there's a lot of positivity among groups and communities, which can be difficult to come across in the offline world because you know, people are always kind of, you know, some people might be stressed in their jobs and whatnot, and a lot of that kind of comes out, and some of that negativity can have an effect. But with the online world, you know, you can look at positive communities and pick and choose which groups you want to be a part of, and I think
Exactly.
that's really
Yeah.
important. I think it's good for that positive mindset. So it's definitely fascinating.
Yeah, for sure. Because there's a lot of mention, and you know, it's brought up very often that you know we are our close five friends in
Yeah.
regards to you know how we act and you know mannerisms that we use and
Mhm.
our drive and things like that. And one thing I absolutely love is that with the internet, that although you may have your you know close physical friends, you can leverage the internet to make new friends that are in say the same level that you are, or maybe they're more successful and you want to learn from them. And that's something that is such a valuable, not tool because you are creating real relationships with people, but I guess a valuable just commodity to have.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I've got some fantastic friends, but not all of them are very entrepreneurial. You know, one friend is very much so. And, you know, we've always coming up with, you know, different things that we can work on and all this, and it's fantastic. But then other friends that, you know, they are happy in their 9 to 5, or say another one, you know, he's not happy in his 9 to 5, but he doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, every day I can talk to entrepreneurs and business owners from literally around the world just by sitting at home in my track pants. And,
Yeah.
you know, it's fantastic, you know, so it's such a positive thing to have, you know, at just our fingertips. Like we're running this podcast and I'm literally just, I've got the white screen up to, you know, have that morcum of professionalism, but I'm just in my kitchen, you know, I'm basically on my phone doing this. So, you know, I don't have this massive setup. There's not someone that's following me around with a camera, but, you know, give that a bit of time. That'll probably happen if things take off the way I think it's going to.
Yeah. No,
But
but
yeah, I'm just on my phone. You know, that's all I'm doing. It's so easy to set up. So yeah, it's such a great thing to have.
yeah, and I think that's an important point to mention. So anyone that's out there in the world that's maybe thinking, I don't have the tools necessary to build this or that, just look at what you're building with just your phone and the community that you're able to build. And I think that's encouragement to let everyone know, hey, like it's doable and you can grow. Like it's incredible that you've got the growth that you have, and incredibly engaged growth. Like the people on your group are just fantastic. And I think
Oh
that's
yeah, this community is
important.
great. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think that because everyone is so appreciated, then I think that really helps because for groups that say, you know, the ones that are called like promote your business or advertise your business,
Mhm.
they've got 30, 40, 50. One group's got like 80,000 people in it, but there's zero
Yeah.
engagement. Someone puts up a post and sure, everyone will see it, but there's one comment, two comments out of 80,000 people, which is mental. Whereas we're doing this and in a group of say, I think we hit 830 this morning or something, which was great because a
Mhm.
few weeks ago we weren't even at 600.
Yeah.
So, you know, the engagement, like this video by the end of the day will easily have been watched by 70 people,
Yeah. Which is
you know, which
incredible.
for
Yeah.
800 people to what for 70 of them, like it's fantastic. So, you know, everyone here is just So the community is fantastic, and everyone here is so valued in regards to what they have to offer with their business and things like that. Amanda says it's crazy how my time zones and my social circles are in these days. Yeah, I was lucky. I've really, because when I first left the 9 to 5, my sleeping pattern was all over the place. Like, it was a bit of a mess. Like, and there'll be some videos on here where I'm doing like just overnighters, and I'm documenting it, and I've got my Red Bull cans, and I'm just working, and it was really throwing my sleep out. And then every night I was going to bed later and later, and then waking up later and later. But then I'm trying to wake up early at the same time, so I'm guessing less and less sleep. Whereas now with this podcast, it's fantastic because most of them are structured in the morning, so I absolutely have to get up. So it's fantastic in that regards, where it's no longer I'll hit the snooze button for a little bit. It's I've got a show at 8:30 a.m. or 7:30 a.m. So out of respect for the audience and out of respect for the guest, I absolutely have to get up. So that's been really good as well. So I think that's been something that a little tool that I've leveraged to wake myself up, because from working from home, it's so easy to get into just shitty sleeping patterns because you're your own boss. So it doesn't matter when you're getting up, but it really does at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I snooze button.
Yeah, Drew says the snooze button is the devil. Yeah, man, absolutely.
That is true. Yeah, no, it's important, and that's fascinating that you're scheduling the podcast in the morning. That's actually a great way. I think to encourage the hustle throughout the day. That's brilliant. And doing live broadcasts is just incredible for engagement. That's how you get people to keep coming back, because people are loving live videos. I think it's like you get 3 times the engagement over a typical video if you just do Facebook Live. It's great for engagement. And I think in terms of kind of building the growth, there's I think the people that are doing like 80,000 plus members, I think a lot of them, they might be adding, because you can invite people and just you can kind of just add like a massive list. You can go and like buy like an 80,000 list or something, and then you'll get there. But what you're doing with organic growth and whatnot, and continually talking to people, that's going to turn into this sustainable business model that has the engagement that you can kind of use to talk about products, services, and help others as well. And I think what you're doing by helping others and getting everyone else's name out there, that is so rewarding and so fulfilling. Just talk about what other people are doing and having the conversation. That in itself is going to naturally build your list. And that's the important piece, is putting out the quality content, which is exactly what you're doing.
Thanks,
this
Trevor.
is a relatively, it's like relatively new, this format, like split screen live Facebook. I don't think it was around 2 years ago, or even.
It wasn't. No, it was. I don't think it was anyway.
Yeah. So I mean, you're capitalizing on an innovative area, and I think that's the key. Is if you want to kind of stand out, is to look at the new platforms and be willing to try it out. And as an entrepreneur, that's what you're doing, which is great.
No, I appreciate that, absolutely. And that's the thing. It is about testing the waters, and I'm big on long-term game, because it really, like, I've done a Facebook Live every single day since almost beginning of December, like mid-December around there, and it's now mid-January, and I have no idea, or had no idea as to what was going to come from it, but I still just did it every day just because I wanted to test it out. Because there's a guy, and I'm trying to remember his name. I think it's Casey someone. He's a YouTube influencer. So, anyone watching live, if you ever just Google that for us, I think his name's Casey, but basically he's like one of the biggest YouTube influencers out there.
Is it Casey Neistat? Nei?
Yeah, actually, yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's the guy. Yeah, and he was saying that he managed to grow his YouTube subscribers from, he had about 200,000 already, which is still a massive amount. Like, that is huge. But then he started doing a post or a video upload every single day. And within something like 6 to 8 months, he then grew it to 1 million. So in regards to the Facebook Lives, trying to keep up with that same sort of, algorithm in regards to, the daily post, that's why I've been trying to do a Facebook Live every single day. And even like Christmas, I was super hungover. So I was like a 5-minute video, just like, hey, everyone stay safe, blah, blah, blah. So it wasn't anything of real value, but it was more just to try and keep that going. So almost every single day, it has been real value. It's been just, there's the odd one where I'm just like, oh, like, I don't want to get out of bed. Like, there was one, New Year's Day, I did a Facebook Live at like 11 p.m. And I was just like, oh, hey, like coming up tomorrow is, I did a Facebook Live training on, how I grew and how we grew the group, which is also on my YouTube channel, RossMac88. But I was so hungover. I was just like, look, it's 11 p.m. I have to get up and do this right now. It's not going to happen. I'm going to miss my midnight threshold.
Nice. That's awesome. You're kind of forcing yourself to do the things, like even if there's times when you're kind of thinking, oh, do I have to do this? Being a good entrepreneur is saying, okay, I'm going to do the things that maybe today I don't totally feel like doing, but that's what kind of sets you apart from the rest, is being able to have that discipline to say, yeah, I'm going to do this. And creating this constant routine is critical. Like continually putting out videos and content, like that is so valuable in terms of content strategy. Like that's what you want to do with any type of content, whether it's words, whether it's imagery through Instagram, or video through all the different stories, and you can do live as well on so many different platforms now. Putting that out there regularly is just critical. It's almost like Gary Vaynerchuk. Like he keeps telling people to be posting like 12 to 15 times a day on various content. And I mean, if you're just getting started, start small, get really good at the one platform. But
definitely.
I think that's like the end goal. If you've got enough people around you, then you can be posting out 12, 15 times. A lot of it's just repurposing content as well, which works, because then you can kind of build out the following across multiple platforms. So I mean,
absolutely,
like with Facebook Live, like you can take this video and then I can share it among my group, and then you can just take this file and start sharing it over and over again. And like in a month from now, you can even take a live video and reshare it. Like you can say, hey, like check out this, you haven't checked it out. And this is like a legacy that you're building that will stand the test of time. Like it'll just live on forever because it's online. And that's quite powerful, because an offline conversation, unless you're recording, well, it's offline, so you're not recording it. So then it's kind of, you lose that. But if you capture the story, you capture what's happening with people, and you disperse that across your networks, it has this lasting effect. And that's really the way to kind of organically grow the following, and to have an engaged following, is to do exactly what you're doing here.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said, repurposing content is crucial, because with the limited time we have each day, to still be able to get out, say, 3 to 4 pieces of content, you just repurpose it. So, that's exactly what we do with this podcast episode. So this is a video within the Niche Entrepreneur Community Facebook group, and this is a live, but then I'll download the video. I'll then put that up on my YouTube channel. I'll then strip the audio, and I'll put that up on iTunes, and I'll put it up on Android. So there, right there, is 4 different pieces of content, or the same one piece, but it's been repurposed 4 times. So, I've now just done 4 posts by doing one piece of work. So, especially if you are starting out, absolutely get fantastic at one platform, but maybe then spread it out over other platforms if you can, because it's Gary V, he is next level. Like he is, the top end. So for him to say, post 5, 10, 15, 20 pieces of content a day, it's not necessarily feasible for those just starting out because of timeframes and things like that. And I absolutely agree. The more you post, the better. Get your name out there. But sometimes it's just not feasible to be able to physically spend the time to do that. So you've got some great points there, Trevor. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's finding out your workload and saying, okay, among all the different tasks, what can I kind of put out there that's manageable and feasible, exactly like what you said. And sometimes, just taking what you've got with one video, it'll allow you to share it 5, 6, 7 times, and that's the critical piece.
Yeah, absolutely. So with your passion for email lists, so for everyone listening at home, for those that maybe they're new to email lists or they've been doing it a little while, what would you recommend in regards to maybe growing or starting to grow the email list? Because I think that's something that many still, they haven't tested the waters because they just don't know where to start. So what would you recommend in that regard?
Yeah, one of the fascinating pieces that I found just recently is actually through Facebook groups where you can ask questions if somebody wants to join your group. And one of the easy, no-brainer, simple things you can do if you're looking to build a Facebook group is just to add a question related to, you know, whether somebody would want to receive more content by email, and then people can just leave their emails on there. And I mean, just with that and really no additional effort, you know, I was able to get quite a few emails, almost like 1,000 in a couple months, just from like having that one question. If I didn't have that question on there, then I wouldn't have the emails that I've received. But that's a simple thing to add. It's just looking at the little add-ons, and then with your website, like having an email opt-in box, whether it's on your blog, like look at the top highest generating web pages for your website and figure out, okay, what am I doing? Are these optimized for email? If people are coming to the site, is there a very clear, easy to place email box? I mean, that's what you kind of want to look at, and look at your sidebars. Are you optimizing your sidebar so you have that? And then even at the end of your post, could you add an email box on there? I mean, once you get the traffic to your site, that's what you can do. A lot of people, though, you know, once you've got your website optimized, maybe you don't have the web traffic you need. You know, I've seen a lot of people that aren't doing this, which is guest posting, like looking at the top blogs in your niche, writing for that blog. Maybe it's, you know, 500 to 1,000 words, just writing an article that's really helpful, and having a link back to your website is a great traffic generator, because somebody that's got a following that's maybe a little bit further ahead than you could inherit that traffic to your site. More traffic equals more opportunities to get those emails. I mean, those are like the free, easy tips that you can do to just kind of build out your email list. And another one that I've actually seen from Noah Kagan, he used to work at Facebook. He was one of the former like top 30 employees at Facebook, and he's really big into list building, and you know, he does giveaways as well just to get emails. So like he'd do like a Starbucks giveaway or whatnot, and that would be a way for him to get traffic. If you've got any kind of social media following, then you can kind of drive traffic to the site or to a specific giveaway link. And you know, you can build landing pages as well. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. You know, building a landing page and maybe focusing on a content offer is another way, and then promoting that through your networks. But you know, it starts with optimizing your website. Like I figure if you've got traffic, that's awesome, because now the next step is to convert that traffic into your email list and to engage. Another piece, like once you've gotten somebody into your email list, is to have a link where you can forward the email to a friend. And you know, anyone that's setting up on MailChimp, which is email marketing software, you can have like a forward to a friend, and then they can actually subscribe. So then you can encourage and have people joining onto that list just by sharing that email. But yeah, there's a lot of different tips there that I've kind of thrown out there, but it starts with the website, and yeah, getting traffic to the site, I think, is that piece once you've got it optimized and capturing emails. I mean, we talked about pop-ups before, which has seen improved conversions. There's been a lot of tests with pop-ups, and it just seems to continue to do well as long as it's not over the top. But actually, if I was to recommend like one of the best pop-ups I've seen, is actually one from liveyourlegends.net, and it has an incredible toolkit. And if you just look at the content in that pop-up, you'll see just the quality of the content, the amount of stuff that the guy that created the blog is giving away. It's just fantastic. Like it would be silly for someone not to give their email. Like, it's just, the content is that incredible. So that's what you really want to look at. And I think it's that give first mentality, and that's critical when you're trying to build your content offer. And I'm working with a business owner right now who's unsure how much content to give. And I wanted to ask him, well, what content do you think should be free to kind of build your email list? And we built out this package that somebody would be really interested in kind of giving their email for. And giving that content is critical. So those are some of the tips that I've run across. Hopefully people can kind of revert back and maybe review it and figure out, okay, what am I doing that for my website, or what kind of things can I add? And it's just the little tweaks that can really help build that email list, especially if you've got web traffic, then you can capitalize on that.
Yeah, fantastic. No, they're very helpful tips. So everyone at home, if you're listening, we'd love to know that you're getting value from this. And just so others can see this as well to get value, if you're able to type in #value for us, that would be fantastic, because we'd love to know that you're getting value, and then others can then organically see this as well, because Trevor is offering some fantastic value here in so many different aspects of the online space. So, leveraging a lot of his value today is really going to help. So thanks, Amanda. Trevor, I was wondering, because earlier you mentioned you've been reaching out to lawyers last week in regards to, not necessarily building them new websites, but optimizing their current ones. Mm-hmm. Do you have any tips for those that are perhaps, in the cold email space, or they're kind of new to it, or, what would you say in regards to what's some good tips to help with cold email, maybe open rates and conversions, and what would they do in regards to, should they cold email them, say, hey, click on this link, or should it be cold email and, let's set up a call? I mean, I personally would rather get them set up a call. I find that, a cold email with a link doesn't get clicked on, but I'd love to hear your insight on it.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And a lot of this has been plenty of experimentation and research. And I almost look at it like, how can I make this as warm as possible? Because I'm kind of afraid to reach out to anyone that doesn't know me. And if before I hit send,
it's like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's almost like this vulnerability to it, because you're really reaching out to someone cold, and you don't know what's going to happen, and there's always going to be a little bit of hate when you get responses like FUs and that sort of thing. You just kind of shrug them off, but depending on the quality of your email list, like if it's CEOs and things like that, they are going to open them and just not respond, which is usually the best way, unless they then hit that report as spam button, which you do not want. But it is almost it's almost like being not afraid, but just there's this just hesitation to reach out to be cold. So I completely understand what you mean by that. I too go through that as well.
Yeah. And to combat that and kind of get over that hump is to do a lot of research up front and understanding any of their pain points, and really just trying to be as helpful as possible. I don't try to close anything on the first email. It requires several emails over the span of weeks to kind of build that. It's more of trying to offer value right up front, and that's what I'm trying to do. And I've been using some software. There's actually a video recorder that I recommend people check out for screenshots, and it's called Loom, and I think it's useloom.com, so LOOM.com.
Yep.
So that would be one to check out. It's really slick screenshot software. So you can record, like for instance, I would go onto the lawyer's website and I would make a goal of addressing maybe 10 opportunities for them to optimize for email conversions. And I would just record myself talking about their website and ways that they can get more clients. And I would just give them that video and be like, here you go. I think this might be helpful. And if you've got a team that can work on it, awesome. And then, I'd maybe start with that. Depending on, how cold it is. If it's a local lawyer, like I've been kind of looking at local lawyers, local Vancouver startups, just companies that are kind of looking to spend money on marketing optimization. And, I'd look at that the regionality is an important aspect, that we're kind of connected regionally. And then, even LinkedIn, like if I know the connection, then I'd be able to kind of mention it. but I'd try to add in as much as possible to make it as warm as I can and almost
Yep.
become like a friend down the road, and not so much try to sell any plans or anything until maybe the sixth or seventh email, or maybe
Okay.
never. Like it might just be, hey, I just gave them a ton of value.
Yep.
Another guy like I would recommend who's all about just giving the value and making the contacts, making them really as warm as possible is there's a guy named James Altucher, and he's all about this concept called 10 ideas. And when he was a major angel investor, and then something
Yep.
happened, and his career kind of had a downturn, and he had to kind of rebuild. And the thing that he focused on was just giving 10 valuable ideas to everyone he was talking to, like 10 ways to help a
Okay.
business, like
Oh
10
wow.
ideas for the next blog post, or 10 ideas for this. And I started implementing that concept of just giving away 10 ideas, whether it's 10 ideas to optimize the website or 10 ideas to promote the brand. I just started doing that, and it had serious engagement because the level of detail that goes into creating 10 ideas for someone is pretty intensive. I was talking to a guy that used to work on Saturday Night Live, big show in the US. He actually was like the director of photography. He's trying to run
Okay.
an agency business, and I was doing some consulting for him. And I just was like, here's 10 ideas to kind of promote your brand. And we've become friends because of that. And
That's great.
that's kind of what you want to do. Now, it might not come as some sort of a quick business transaction right off the bat. Maybe it'll be like 6 months, maybe a year, maybe 5 years down the road, who knows? But if you approach the concept of email outreach or any kind of outreach in terms of giving value up front, then
Yep.
that works too. And I think that works quite well. Warm email is still tough in terms of percentages and conversions, but the
Yep.
more value that you give and the less you're trying to sell up front, then the more likely you can maybe convert that after several emails and conversations. And I mean, getting to know, it's all about social selling and getting to know somebody and figuring out what their pain points are. Um, and like for me, I'm kind of getting into the freelance space and trying to grow my freelance profile on Upwork, and a lot of it
Yep.
is just trying to give value and seeing, okay, what's the pain point the client's having, and can I address
Yep.
this, and then just giving the value. I've had plenty of people just ask me for advice and calls and strategy calls, and I just give all that away for free. Like, I'm
That's
happy to
fantastic.
jump on a call and
Yeah.
try to help. And then if I see the business grow, that's the most important thing. But yeah, that's kind of what I've been looking at, trying to make the email or any kind of outreach system that you're trying to do, make it as warm as possible, and almost aim to make a friend rather than a business transaction, because that'll do wonders for you.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Absolutely. Thanks, Trevor. That's fantastic. So Amanda has mentioned Saturday Night Live is a lot of silly fun. If you haven't seen it, Ross, you should check it out. I know of Saturday Night Live. I've seen a few episodes, but like years and years ago, like
Yeah.
Jim Carrey being on Saturday Night Live and things like that when they were first starting out
Nice.
their careers. Not live, obviously, but on YouTube and that sort of thing. So yeah, I'll definitely have to revisit that at some point.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Check out the skits with Chris Farley. Uh, he's
Okay.
uh,
Yeah.
he's quite the character in that show, and just the energy that he brings to live and improv is absolutely incredible. Some of his skits, he's got a motivational speaker skit that I recommend,
Yeah.
just absolutely a classic. I think Amanda knows exactly what I'm talking about. Like, Chris Farley's probably one of my idols. He's just incredible in terms of the live talent, and very genuine individual. But yeah, that was way back, kind of in the late '80s, early '90s. That was probably when I was like 3 or 4 years old.
Oh, fair
I
enough.
had to
Yeah.
I had to
Nice.
like rewatch. I had to like rewatch those as well, like afterwards, because I was too young to be watching it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Nice. No, that's awesome. Yeah. No, Trevor, this has been just so valuable. Like the amount of value you've offered today. Like, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with the viewers. It's been absolutely fantastic. So, for those at home to get in touch with you, how do they do that? Like, obviously, we've got links we can drop below, but for those to reach out to you, like, what do you really recommend for them to be able to do that?
Yeah, for sure. It's really just the main link, Trevor Carrs with two S's, so CARSS.com,
Yep.
trevorcarrs.com, is the one where I'm blogging about my experiments, talking about some of the books that I've written. I've written books on growth and all the different things. I'm doing a lot of different projects and marketing wise, and that's where people can kind of find out where I am. I'm also on Upwork, and I can definitely share my profile there, and it kind of shows my list of clients and some of the
Beautiful.
work that I've done there. But
Yep.
yeah, I'll definitely kind of throw that in there and let you know about that. But if anyone wants
Please do.
any kind of guidance or whatnot, I'm happy to connect with anyone through Facebook and whatnot, and anyone can message me, and I'm happy to try to answer any more questions. I know we ran through a lot of it, and happy to help. Yeah.
Yeah, no, Trevor, that's been absolutely amazing. So everyone at home, Trevor Carrs, yeah, Trevor, I absolutely have had a great time. So thank you so much for coming on the show. And everyone at home, if you're on the replay, if you type in hashtag replay, just so we know you've caught this afterwards, because we would love to get more guests on the show. And if you've got any suggestions for guests or types of industry guests that you'd like to have on the show, because with the whole, Trevor, as you mentioned, when you have a group, have some questions at the beginning. And I think I need to reword it because one of my questions is, are there any industry type leaders that you would like on? And I'm getting a lot of name drops in there, which people are asking for Gary Vee and things like that. And I was like, yeah, look, I'd love to have Gary Vee on, but I don't feel we're at that level yet. I more meant like a cold calling industry leader. I can find one of those and things like that. But yes, I think
Yeah.
I'm going to have to reword that question a little bit. But yeah, Trevor, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And if you could as well, in this live, if in the comments you could drop your website, and yeah, even if you want to drop your Upwork in there as well, that'd be
Sure.
absolutely fantastic. And your group as well, the Entrepreneur Passion, if you want to drop the link for that too, please feel free because a lot of great value in there as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thanks for having me, Ross, and continued success with this. Like this is awesome to see, and
Thank you.
yeah, can't wait to listen to some of the podcasts coming up.